Hey everybody, this is George Uno with REIClub, and welcome to another edition of First and Worst. My guest today is David Lecko. He is the founder of DealMachine, a driving for dollars app I'm sure a lot of you have heard about. It's a wonderful app. It does amazing things when you're out there driving for dollars, tracking your leads, following up with your leads, and just everything in between. It's a really complete suite, and the cool thing is David actually built this himself. He never intended this to be a business. He's a recovering software engineer, kind of like myself. And back in 2016, he was driving for dollars, and he's like, man, there's got to be a better way to do this. I'm writing everything down on a paper pad. I'm taking it home, and this is just a pain. So he built the first version for himself with no intention of ever releasing it commercially. It took off. He started using it. His friends started using it. He posted on the App Store. Random people started using it. And so right away he said, wow, I think I've got something big here. So he partnered with one of his good friends, another software developer, and they built another version of the app that was a lot easier to use. It was more designed to be commercially available. So instead of just hacking things quickly and getting them done and doing it specifically for David, him and his partner actually built DealMachine kind of as it stands today, but a very early version of it back in 17. And David actually used that very first version to get his first deal, which we're about to talk about. As you know, first and worst, we want to hear about your first deal. We want to hear about your worst deal, David. So how are you, man? How are you doing down there in Austin?
Couldn't be better. I love Austin, Texas. So many people are open to meeting and making new friends. There's tons of entrepreneurs. Real estate's appreciating. It is a good time to be a person living in Austin. I love it. Doing great. How about you?
Oh man, we're having a blizzard here today, so Austin sounds really nice. I could go for some warm weather.
Come on up. Yeah, come down.
Yeah, I'll have to come check out your guys' office.
I have a spare bedroom. You can stay here.
Yeah, I bet one cool thing about Austin is that whole tech hub mentality. It's becoming like, the Silicon Plains, I heard is what they're calling it these days. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot of investors, a lot of venture capitalists, just entrepreneurs in general that are in Austin, Texas. It's a very cool place to be.
Nice. Yeah, well, I'll have to come down and visit you guys and get some good Texan food. I love all that Tex-Mex stuff you guys got going there. Barbecue, Mexican food. I can't get enough of it. So, David, let's get into it. It's 2017. You're using this prototype version you built for yourself of DealMachine, and you got your first deal. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, so I knew that real estate was going to be the way I was going to build wealth, because compared to the stock market, you've got a lot more control if you're managing the property well, that it will cash flow every single month. And we all know that quote from Warren Buffett that says, the only rule is don't lose money. And the second rule is follow rule number one. And so I was really interested in getting a rental property. So I went driving for dollars, looking for off-market properties. And I had this feeling, it's like, man, I don't really know what to do. And I was like, why don't I just get my own house first? Okay, I can get a house myself with low money down. I actually didn't even get this through DealMachine. I actually just kind of started driving for dollars. And I was like, let me just get my own house first and rent out the bedrooms. It's called house hacking. And so I used an FHA loan, put 3.5% down on a $194,000 house in Carmel, Indiana. Normally it was a 3-bedroom house, but this house was perfect for me because some investor had finished out the basement and added 2 additional bedrooms. So this house was 1,800 square feet and like 70% bedrooms, which was like perfect if you're trying to maximize the income you can make from renting bedrooms. So I lived in it and I rented 3 of the bedrooms for $550 a piece. Now my mortgage payment was like $1,300, so not cash flowing that much, but it was a great first move because I learned how a transaction worked and it did cash flow a little bit. And my living expenses were really reduced to 0. And it was a really cool way for me to learn how to own a property. From there, then I started acquiring some more off-market deals, and I can tell you about them because my worst deal was actually my first off-market deal. So we could talk about that too. Just curious though, was there anything about the first deal that stood out to you that you wanted me to talk more about?
Yeah, absolutely. So you said your mortgage was $1,300 a month. You were living there. You're renting out 3 bedrooms for $550 a month. So that's 15 or 1650. So you're making $350 a month in cash flow and you're living rent free.
Pretty much. I mean, I was paying for the electricity and the water. So like It was a little bit of cash flow, but my expenses were definitely for free. And that was a huge win because I was about to quit my job.
That's awesome. I think we can all relate to wanting to quit our jobs. And that first house, I mean, guys, even when you're not seeing these like massive, crazy cash flow numbers, that first deal you get, you see a few $100, it just changes how you see the game. Is that true, Dave? That happened for you?
Oh yeah, if you see a few $100 coming in instead of bucks coming out, that definitely changes how you see the game.
Yeah. I mean, you went all in after that, right?
Well, I did take a few next steps. And at
Mhm.
that time, I had made the DealMachine app just for my own personal use when I was looking for distressed properties. So I still wanted to do that. Now that I'd done a real estate transaction, I had a lot more confidence to go get one of those properties off market and talk to the seller. So yeah, man, I went all in.
Nice. And how many deals did you do before you got to your worst deal?
So I did one more deal. I found the first deal on the MLS. So I was like, well, let me try that again. Let me look for some old listings that are 90 days plus old. And I actually found another house that was 4 bedrooms in a neighborhood where mostly you're going to get 3 bedrooms. So again, I was like, this is unique. This is a reason to charge more than I probably should in this neighborhood because it's unique and people will really like that. And
Mhm.
so I ended up making him an offer. I think it was like $104,000 house. Now, it had been on the market for quite a while. It had been pending and it had come back on the market because financing fell through. And he had another offer that was the same price as mine, actually. And this other guy was going to put 50% down. I was only going to put 25. And one of the reasons why he gave me the opportunity to close this deal was because he found a random video when he Googled my name. And it was from back in my college days. I was talking about the importance of leadership training. And he said, my wife and I took a look at your video. This other guy, he's got a bunch of properties. We know that you're wanting to start on your journey. And we'd really love this property to go to you because we can just tell the type of person you are based on some of the videos we found online. And listen, I didn't even know that video was out there, but that was an eye opener to me. It's very powerful to share your journey with people. It becomes a reason for them to want to see you win or pick you to do that deal. And so that wasn't my worst deal, but that was the next deal. And to answer your question, my third deal was the first deal that I ever did direct to seller that responded to a postcard that I sent. And I'd love to tell you about that one because it's also my worst deal.
That's awesome. I love that story about, winning in those bidding wars. I mean, gosh, it's hard to think of now these days, but man, bidding wars were all the rage back in that time. And, it took writing a letter or, that cool leadership video you had that they found to win out against some of these big cash buyers. I kind of experienced that myself as well. But yeah, let's get to that first off market property, your worst deal. Let's hear about how'd you get it, what happened, and what'd you learn from it?
First of all, if I had gotten it under contract, which I did, I got it under contract, and I'll tell you about how it would have been an amazing deal if I wholesaled it. The reason why it was a worse deal was because I made some mistakes when I was trying to renovate it with my no interest credit cards that I loaded up to get a contractor to do the work. So it was really that aspect of the deal where I kind of messed up. Luckily, I got out of the deal. Well, I still own the house. It turned out to be a great deal, but it could have been bad, and I want to explain that. So yeah, I drove my city, found a bunch of rundown houses, started sending out these postcards that just said, I'm interested in buying your house. If you're interested in getting an offer, please give me a call or text and have a great day. And it had a picture of their house. And this house was like a little house. It had a tarp over the roof. So I was like, dude, who puts a tarp over their roof, but somebody that may not be able to fix their roof, that may be in a situation eventually where it gets so bad, they need to move out. They need help. They need to get cash and they can't sell it on the market as is. So 7 postcards later, I got a call from this guy. And when I picked up the phone, I had sent out to 200 houses that looked run down and had been over the course of like 4 or 5 months. I just felt like this had to be that house when he called me. And sure enough, it was. He just said, hey, can I get an offer on my house? And I said, yeah, what's the address? I looked it up. Sure enough, there it was. And he said, I'm getting too old to cut the grass and maintain my property. I'm going to move into an assisted living center down the street. So I came in, I set an appointment because I really didn't know what to ask him. When I showed up, I also didn't know what to say. So I just said, I'm going to take some photos. Why don't you tell me about the house? And I just kept asking him questions just to kind of keep him talking while I was taking photos. And he finally asked, how much are you going to offer me on my house? And I was like, ooh, I don't know yet. What am I going to say? And then I was like, hey, I'll give you an offer in 24 hours. I just want to review everything and get back to you. And so for me, that was really helpful. I was able to look at the comps, analyzed it. Perfect house was like $80,000. This house needed absolutely everything redone. So I offered him like $4,782. And I showed him, I was like, comps per square foot, 80,000, renovation, 65,000. And look, I need to make a profit because I'm going to be spending 4 or 5 months doing this work, and it's going to be a bit of a risk. If something goes wrong, I deserve to get a little bit of payment. Not trying to dishonor this house you've owned for 40 years. This is just how I'm thinking about it and what we could do. And so he took 24 hours then, and he got back to me and he said, okay, let's get it signed. So I showed up and then we signed the deal. So far, so good. I could have wholesaled it, could have made some money, but I got a contractor. And my first mistake was I didn't set a due date for when all this work would be done. So the contractor got real busy real quick. And then all of a sudden, like nothing happened for a month, and I didn't hear from him. He wasn't responding to my texts and calls. Now he was a fireman too. So I was like, well, maybe he's just having, 10 days on, 10 days off, and maybe he's just busy fighting fires. Well, month went by, no work. And I also paid him a little bit in advance. He was like, well, hey, just pay me I can get these materials and labor. Well, he never really delivered everything that I prepaid for. So I felt like I was down about $10,000, and I didn't have the cash. He had been charging my credit cards that I got. I went on and I got 4 credit cards in one day that all had 0 interest for a whole year. So that was my plan. I was like, 0 interest, perfect. Just put on the credit cards, get it refinanced and pay it off. Well, eventually what had happened was we disagreed that he owed me money. And I started going to meetups and asking who can bail me out of this job. He says it's too big of a job to do for what he thought it was going to be. So I'm really pinched. And I found a guy, his name was Keith. And Keith was just known for bailing people out of these tough situations where the renovation budget doesn't make sense. And somehow Keith can make it make sense. Okay. So that's how he was introduced to me. And he did come in and he did get it done. And it was just a little bit over budget. I did get eventually some money back from the original contractor. But here's where I messed up a little bit is as soon as it was done, I tried to refinance it. And the house was smaller than some of the other ones in the neighborhood. So even though per square foot, the comp made sense to me, they were having a tough time believing that comp because there was no house that was 600 square feet. Everything else was like 1,100 square feet. So it was not possible to refinance it. And luckily things on the DealMachine side had brought in enough cash just in time to pay off those credit cards before the high interest kicked in. And I don't know what I would have done without it. It would have been a really bad situation to have the high interest, 17% interest on like a $65,000 renovation on my credit cards. But looking back and knowing what I know now, you always find a way, right? If you're resourceful, you always find a way to solve whatever problem is in front of you. And I think talking with people at the real estate meetup in town, I probably could have found an investor that would have done a bridge loan, or I probably could have found a special credit union that would have understood the unique situation about the house, considering it was rented for $1,100, right? So it was cash flowing, right? They should have been able to refinance the $65,000, no problem. I think if I talked to the right person. So knowing what I know now, that's what I would have probably done. But thankfully, it wasn't a problem. It just stressed me out. That's why it was my worst deal. Is it really just stressed me out. It's been a great deal. Now Zillow, we know that's not accurate all the time, but it is a data point. Now Zillow, I think, has it valued at 140. So it's appreciated as well. It's rented for like $1,250 per month. It's been a great cash flowing rental property for me.
Well, that's an awesome story. I mean, that's tough because I'm in that wholesaling business as well. And the next step is always to fix and flip your own. But man, that comes with a whole new set of challenges, as you found out. Contractors, bad contractors, and luckily you got a Keith.
Luckily I got a Keith, man. He was so great. I mean, he fixed so many problems. The drywall was oh, so rough. Like they had to like sand it down. The original work, not only was it not done, not only did I pay for work that didn't get done, but it was kind of done poorly. So things needed to be redone. And I'm
Yeah.
really glad I found Keith.
Yeah, I mean, that's quite a reno. I mean, you see the tarp on the roof. We are typically in like the 60, 70 square foot range for big time remodels, but you spent like $108,000 per square foot on that house and that renovation. So Keith did a lot of work and he was probably worth his weight in gold, huh?
So wait, what are you saying is the standard versus my 108? That was good math, by the way. That was fast.
Yeah, well, I pulled up the calculator. I don't know if you saw
Oh, you
that,
did pull
but
the calculator.
I thought it was right around the 100 range. But yeah, I mean, for like a really big major renovation, we typically are right around like the 70, $80 per square foot range.
Okay.
But that's with an in-house construction team for a lot of the buyers I work with.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
So
$100 a square foot is, I mean, when there's water damage and things like that, it gets up there really quick. So it's not like that's an outlier or anything, but it's one of those things when you're a new flipper, you don't realize how quickly that money can go. I mean, you kind of budgeted for 60,000 and luckily you got out of there with that. So that's pretty amazing.
a couple things that probably pushed mine above 70 up to 100 was it had this like flat roof and it needed to be like a vaulted roof. So there was a little bit of structural work to put like a really big beam up there to get the angle on the roof. And then that would prevent it from leaking again in the future as well. Plus, we redid like everything, the electrical meter, the electrical service entrance, the electrical wiring throughout the house because it had knob and tube. So it was everything. When I say everything, it was everything. And then I do when I want to set up my rental properties, I do want to go nicer than normal because I feel like I'm a self-manager. And the least vacancy that I have, the more profitable it will be. And like, I don't want to take up my time because my time's really valuable.
Right.
So I try to go a notch above with my rentals. That way it's just really easy to attract a tenant and they get taken right away. So granite countertops everywhere, the higher end appliances all around, and the bathrooms, would actually have tile. The house has luxury vinyl plank. So that all looks nicer, but also it saves me on maintenance because the laminate, or what is that fake wood stuff? That stuff, if it gets wet, you're gonna have to repair it, right? And it's gonna curl up and it's gonna be a problem. But the vinyl's waterproof, so you can put it in bathrooms, bedrooms, hallways, family rooms, kitchen. It looks great and it's waterproof everywhere.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I love it. How far over budget did you go?
So yeah, I went over budget from what I recall, $5,000 to $10,000.
Okay. Yeah, that's not bad.
As a percentage, I mean, it was like 20% over.
Yeah. For your first flip, that's really not bad. I mean, I've heard way worse stories about, you can come in almost double your renovation, your expected renovation budget. So you definitely didn't do that bad. But that stress, I mean, that stress sometimes can really weigh on you.
First time and not knowing where the saving grace was going to come when the first, traditional banks that I've been talking to wouldn't refinance it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's tough. That's what they say is, the crashes, the crash in equity isn't a big deal. It's the lack of liquidity that really hurts you. So luckily things worked out for you. DealMachine, started kicking in full gear back then, and that's good. I'm really glad you got out of that. But you learned some good lessons and lessons we can all learn from as well.
Thanks. I did definitely learn a lot of lessons. Whew, tongue tied.
Yeah. That's easy for you to say. So did you flip houses after that? What has your journey been since then?
Yeah. So after I had done my first off market deal, even though it gave me some stress, I learned a ton. And looking at it, it met the 1% rule too, right? Because I was all in for less than $80,000, and it was rented right away for $1,000 a month. I've raised it since then to $1,250, but back in the day, I had 80,000 into it, and it was rented for $1,000 a month. So that's definitely better than the 1% rule. It's like 1.2%. And if you ever looked on the MLS and you try to just analyze a bunch of deals of like, oh, they're asking this and it rents for this, 1% is hard to find. You don't find 1% on the MLS very often. So I was like, I got to do more. So I did several of the Burr strategy deals after that. And those were probably some of the best deals that I ever did.
Okay. So you you did the same, you went right back into the same thing, doing the reno, the rehab, and the refinance and everything?
Once I got the credit cards handled and paid off, then I was like, yeah, let's do it again. Yeah.
Nice. How many doors do you own now?
I own 9.
Okay, that's healthy, man. That's a good
Thank
that's a
you.
good little passive income stream.
Thank you. I haven't moved or haven't bought a property in like 3 years. So I'm actually in the middle of selling my primary residence in Indianapolis. I'm really looking forward to taking those proceeds and trying to get like more rentals in Indianapolis. Just put the money right back in real estate, but rental properties.
Nice. Are you just staying busy on the DealMachine side then? What's going on with you there?
Yeah, DealMachine's been my primary focus ever since it really started taking off in 2018. And that's, like I said, the reason why I haven't acquired more rentals was just because, DealMachine was really taking off and it was what I thought deserved my primary focus.
Absolutely. I'm really glad you did because DealMachine is such a great app these days. Guys, if you're out there driving for dollars, you got to check out DealMachine. We've got links on our website, reiclub.com/DealMachine. Check it out. I believe you get some marketing credits for free and the account setup's free as well. So get on there, guys. Check it out.
Should be 35 postcards. In addition to driving for dollars, I'm really proud of the comps tool that we built this year that actually teaches you how to value properties by using the mobile app that lets you add properties that were coming through from the MLS data feed, review their pictures, see if it is comparable or in great condition, see if it isn't that, and you really can learn how to value properties super easily by using the comps tool. And we also have a ton of data that I think a lot of people don't know about, including liens, senior owners, probates, people that have high equity or, recent expired listings, a lot of data you can pull right on your DealMachine mobile app as well, in addition to driving for dollars.
Yeah, that's true. You guys have gone way beyond driving for dollars now. You guys are a pretty complete solution. I mean, I was talking with Matt, I think it was just a few weeks ago, and we looked at the list stacking feature you guys had. It's super cool. You can just draw out your city. You can look for multiple different motivation points and stack them all together and get those, really mine that data to get the needle in the haystack for sure, for sure.
Thanks. It's something we've really put a lot of time into this year is providing a lot of things that investors need, but in a simple way. I think that's a big takeaway that we learned in 2021 was that's when we started answering a lot of these requests to add this feature, add that feature. I'm doing this 5 seconds before I use DealMachine. Can you just give me that inside of DealMachine? But it's hard to make things simple, and people only do good stuff when it's simple. So even though somebody did want to design a postcard, if we made that too complex, they weren't going to send any postcard because it was a little bit more complex than just sending a button and knowing that the right thing was going to be sent. So we spent a lot of time this past year just making it a really simple, easy to use thing so that you or somebody on your team isn't spending 9 hours to train and learn how to use it, but it's like very easy to pick up and use and intuitive. So let me know if we hit that mark, but we spent a lot of time trying to make that so.
Yeah, no, it really shows because I mean, like you said, I've been bolting on features, and when I was a developer, we'd do that all the time for a client. We'd bolt on all these features and we'd be like, it's kind of hard to use now, don't you think? And so you're always balancing that usability versus adding features. And I think you guys have really made usability and simplicity a huge part of what you guys are doing. You guys have added a ton of features, don't get me wrong, but they're very intuitive and easy to use. I found that myself. So I really do appreciate that as a recovering software engineer.
George, you compliment us too well, man. You're too nice.
Well, you've done a lot of work and it really shows. And I love a good app. And guys, DealMachine is a great app. Get out there, check it out. REIClub.com/DealMachine. David, I want to thank you so much for coming on today. I look forward to hearing about some more deals, some more DealMachine changes, new features you guys have coming up when you guys are launching those. So let's get you back on here. I know everybody is dying to hear about them.
Thanks, George. I appreciate it.
All right, David, well, you have a good one. Well, take care and stay warm down there.
You too. You too in Idaho. You stay warm in Idaho.
I'll try. It's challenging today, that's for sure. All right, guys, have a good one. This is George Uno with REI Club. Talk to you on the next one.